Today on the show, we have Stacy Marshall from Southeast Fort Worth Inc. Hello, Stacy.
Hey, good afternoon.
So we know that you're doing big things at Southeast Fort Worth Incorporated, and we kind of wanted to get an overview of what's coming up, and also, some of your background and some of the hurdles and successes you've experienced in your role.
So
So,
sure.
for the viewers at home, could you kind of just break down what it is Southeast Fort Worth Incorporated is about and your role there?
Sure. So I currently serve as president and CEO of the organization for the 8.5 years I've been here. We focus on economic development, but revitalization on the southeast portion of the city. That's everything east of I-35, south of I-30, north of I-20, and we go over to Lake Arlington off of 820. And so basically my day-to-day operation is working with developers, working with individual homeowners or people that want to bring residential and commercial projects to the area.
Outstanding. So your role does involve a lot of collaboration with contractors, developers. What about the interaction with the city and municipal entities?
So we work closely with the city and the county. We have 4 active city council members in our district. That's Councilwoman Gina Bivens, Councilman Chris Nettles, Councilwoman Jeanette Martinez, and Councilwoman Elizabeth Beck.
So a lot of overlapping interests there.
It's a lot of blending, love, hold-handing, passionate people that's coming together to make sure that we get the right development to happen. And so basically what I do is I work directly with them to talk about their vision of what they would like to see in their district. And then I bring that vision back to my experts because, again, I've always tell people I'm not the smartest person in the room. We sit down and talk about how we can make that work and make certain that it all blends together with those 4 individual districts that we work in.
Outstanding. So those individual districts, definitely big personalities on the roster. Definitely a lot of
yeah,
a lot of interaction. And as far as keeping the residents' interests and the local people involved in the loop is, and keeping the community and the history of Fort Worth on that side of town relevant to the people that are coming here and developing, what's that look like on a day-to-day, balancing the 2 interests of the residents and the historical, stakeholder versus those other big personalities?
So we keep a close connection with the neighborhood associations that's in our footprint because neighborhood associations have a big voice and a lot of them are more passionate than others. And so we just try to make sure we tell that story to the neighborhoods. As I go out and speak to their neighborhood association at their neighborhood association meetings and talk about big picture, big vision for which of the council members would like to see, but more realistic what can go into those particular districts after vetting all that information through our design review committee. So I'm constantly calling, emailing, meeting with people, in the community itself, just making sure everybody's aware of what's going on. We do our news blast, meaning any latest and greatest opportunities that may be coming down the pike that's going to affect the neighborhood. We try to keep everybody informed and keep everybody at the table too at the time we're planning it.
Okay. I heard you mention something previously where it was instead of gentrification, gentrification.
Gentrification, yes. So gentrification for us is we know gentrification is going to happen in pockets of Southeast. I mean, that's just organic growth. People moving from all over the country, want to be in the area, but they also want to see certain amenities. They want a certain type of housing stock, things of that nature that may not be the person who's been here forever has been used to. So what we try to do is we try to sit at the table and educate everybody on slow growth, but the right growth. Let people know that, your grandmother has been in this house for 50 years and she's been at this tax rate and she had to drive 2 hours away to get, go to a grocery store. And I'm just throwing it out there, but it's not that far. But at the same time, we got to educate them to, hey, we're trying to attract a younger group of people here so that we can put a tax base together and have, people develop in the neighborhood so that we can bring those amenities too.
Okay. And that's where you start to work on the outdoor space and like providing parks, leisure, and getting the schools renovated and things like that, correct?
Exactly. So we work with the school districts. We work with both the public school and the charter schools to try to make certain that we get those grades up and keep those grades up because that drives and affects economic development. When we get people, new companies that may want to relocate to Fort Worth, we get a lot of them relocating on the west side, the north side, because they take a look at the school systems because a lot of them have children and they want to be around the better schools. Yeah. I mean, we have good schools on the east side. We have to tell the story, but we also have some schools that are not as good as we would like for them to be.
Hmm. That's the main thing. I think that people, the American taxpayer, we'll just cut party lines right down the center there and just say everybody involved. I think that sometimes the misconception is that their elected official or somebody, somebody lofty and on high, is not involved directly with these things. The outcomes are governed by test scores,
Mhm.
test scores, and then of course the money that comes in. So how do you kind of communicate that message to them as far as, hey, if we want good schools, we need to have these amenities to attract these
Mhm.
investors to invest in infrastructure. How does that kind of pitch when you're going to town hall meetings and stuff like that?
Um, it depends on the meeting I'm in and the area that I'm in, because sometimes people understand it, they get it, and then others don't.
Okay.
What we did was I grew our board of directors and diversified the board. So now we have representatives from Texas Wesleyan University. We have members from Fort Worth ISD. We have members from TCC, which is Tarrant County College, on the board, so that they can hear these stories that I go out and hear in the community, and we try to address those from that point. A lot of the times I try to have representatives from those entities with me so that they can explain, they can tell their story better than me. I'm a person that's big picture, I'm focused on the development piece, but when it comes down to the education piece, they can tell that story to the public that's going to be saying, hey, yeah, so what if the school is failing or whatever? How does that affect me? How is that going to affect me not getting a grocery store and all of that type of stuff? So we just constantly try to educate them on it.
Okay. I mean, I would just think that that'd be a really organic and positive way to do it, because the outcomes, even the runoff affects the children positively. It affects the neighborhood positively. So I think that's a great way to spin it.
Mhm.
So, and here's the thing. So there's historical interest in Southeast Fort Worth and everywhere in Fort Worth. We've had a lot of redistricting, a lot of zoning stuff go on here historically, for various reasons. But we'll say, as far as historical efforts are concerned, what's an example of a preservation, economic growth, and diversity balancing act you've had to do recently? Just an example of one with the local residents.
So shared one with you earlier is we have a project at the corner of 35 and Rosedale we call Evro.
Okay.
It's Evans and Rosedale. That land has stayed vacant just to the north of the Jack in the Box for a number of years. Beautiful piece of land. It is ripe for development, but it sits in the middle of a historic district. And so we have a very passionate community on that side of our 35, because, they've lived there for years. They've seen Black Wall Street on Terrell. They've seen Black Wall Street on Evans, and they want similar things to come back. That's the grocery stores, the restaurants, the clubs, and things of that nature. And so we have a developer that is actually overseeing that project right now, who is somewhat sensitive to the needs of the community, but they're not from Fort Worth, so they're having to learn the history and the culture and understand the passion that's coming from those people who's been there for 50 plus years. And
817.
so yeah, and so I've gone in numerous times with the neighborhood association to try to be that mediator between the two, to give them the amenities that they want, but also let them understand too that, in these day and times, cost has gone up when it comes to construction. So what they may want to see may not be what they get. And when we've done these marketing studies or whatever, it basically drives what type of development you'll see. And so that marketing study came back and said mixed use. That means you are going to get townhomes, you're going to get apartments, you're going to get some commercial, but it needs to be more heavy residential. And I think the balance wasn't there originally, because it became in first time they came in with like 1,000 apartments, and I said, no, we're not going to do that. Let's try to get a little. I want the density, but at the end of the day, I still want the quality.
Okay.
And that would be some commercial or whatever. So working with the two, and it took a couple of years for us to get there, but we kind of right there on the same page right now, trying to make that development happen. 4 years in.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
another thing. The timeline. The timeline's definitely not something that you're
Yeah.
gonna have a microwave result with, right?
Exactly. And with 4 years gone past right now, so prices have gone up again.
Yeah.
So, things are going to have to be done in phases. We're also looking at another project over on Vickery and Riverside. It's the Old Arctic Vickery School that has sat vacant for a number of years. It had many uses after the school closed. My understanding, there was a club, Fernandez, that used to be a part of that school. It was an extension they built on the east side of the building. but it has burned and all of that, and it's become a camp for homeless or people without homes. And so I've been working with the community to let them know that we have someone who's going to purchase that building. It's not in the historic, it's not a historic building, but it's so close to the historic district that we still got to be sensitive to the needs in terms of the design of the building and what it can look like. I don't want it to be a sore thumb sticking out. But also we have churches around there who will also weighing in and seeing, talking about what they would like to see, and people that have gone to that school who want to see that school be brought back, but make sure that the character, the aesthetics is still good. At the
Okay.
same time. Mhm.
And so for the aesthetics portion, you use, I mean, you guys employ, there's a zoning, a strict zoning code, I imagine, but do you guys use experts or anything like that to kind of pin that home?
So yes, we do. Again, I use my design review committee, and that's a combination of a lot of people from different backgrounds, from the real estate company, architects, engineers, developers, people who build houses, that sit around the table and take a look at the zoning, where it is and where it should be. You know, we take the whole 79.3 square miles of Southeast and realize that 287 should be commercial, 35 should be commercial. Sometimes we find that the zoning's off because of history and everything like that. But yeah, I'm not that expert, but I allow them to be the ones to tell me how we should move forward on that.
Absolutely. So the modern development stuff, like you said, you don't want things to be out there looking like a sore thumb. You don't want to stick out too much. I mean, as you said, as the aging community and that population grows, they're also going to have a lot more to weigh in on because they've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying, like stakeholders, end users, how's that going in Southeast Fort Worth? You said that the churches sound off, they say what they want. The new stakeholder that comes in, what are the requirements? Because I know Fort Worth's got a pretty good structure on engagement for diversity purposes and just for using local contractors in Tarrant County. So is there some particular framework by which you guys operate?
So basically, again, we work closely with the elected officials in the district.
Okay.
And one of the things we do is we welcome people from outside of Fort Worth, outside of Tarrant County, that has that design capability that we may not have here locally grown, but we also try to source what we have here first. We are very big proponents of, home-based, homegrown, making sure that they're at the table, they get some of the work, and couple them with others who may not be locally or homegrown because they have that talent, and pair them together. Again, let's go back to the neighborhood associations. Let's go back to the faith-based community. They're very passionate in Fort Worth, particularly on the east side. We have all 700 plus churches in my district alone. Wow. That we have to work with. It's a lot of churches. It's a lot of different mindsets and opinions about things that they would like to see and don't want to see. And so just trying to balance that out, but we try to work with everybody to educate them on, okay, if you want the Chili's, if you want the Applebee's, their sales are driven by bars, by the bar. They got to serve alcohol. Yes, you are a church. Do we try to advocate for them to be next to a church? No, we don't. But we also got to realize, in order to drive them there, we got to have a location, and it's going to be in close proximity to where you're located. The same thing with the neighborhood associations. A lot of people have told me they want to have, the different stores, the Marshalls, the Walmarts, and things of that, the grocery stores. But then at the same time, they don't want it in their backyard, so to speak. They want it 2 blocks over, but they don't
want it over there.
Trucks coming down the street where they are. So it's just trying to figure out that right balance between everybody having, and the most important part is having everybody at the table.
And so that being transparent with the local community is pretty effective in that way, I imagine. Developers can appreciate that they do want they want all the amenities and none of the fuss, but balancing those interests is what they defer to you for.
Well, yeah, every time we get a developer interested, so what I do is I go 6 months out.
Okay.
And I back out of that 6 months because I know time is money for a developer. And Absolutely. I know that person is not going to spin their wheels constantly having meetings with the community and talking about what they want to do. And the community say, well, we want this, we don't want that. So we just work real quickly and try to work with everybody to make sure that we can, before that 6-month timeline is up, that we are at a point where everybody's on the same page, we can move forward. Because my goal is not to lose that developer's interest, not to lose that particular project, and create something that we can put on the ground that can generate taxes, so to speak, for the city.
Okay. And so we make sure that we engage the human aspect of all this. I like to ask guests, for the most part, something that impacts you from your job. How did this situation help you to understand? I mean, not just the depth of Fort Worth, but you personally engaging with these different stakeholders and different, you engaging with these different stakeholders and different community advocates. How's that grown you as a person? How's that changed Stacy Marshall?
Well, I won't say that I've changed. I know that I'm still the same person, but I would say that my skin has gotten thicker, so to speak. I'm not new to this. I've been in Texas 24 years. I've been in this business that 24 years. I worked for DART in Dallas that brought me here to do community engagement and things like that. And so it all depends on the community. But here in this role, because I am overseeing a larger district of 79.3 square miles, which has pockets of areas like Stop 6, Eastwood, Morningside, and so forth, everybody's unique. Everybody has a different perspective on what they would like to see. And so for me, trying to navigate through the who's the mouthpiece, so to speak, in that community that can make or break a project, trying to educate myself on, what's going to make this person tick, whether it's positive or negative, so I would say for me, thicker skin, I've grown that. But also, I think I've come a little bit more sensitive to the needs of the community, because now I have that one-on-one with these people. I've had lunch, dinners, breakfasts at their homes or whatever. We've sat down and had conversations for hours on end. So I have a little bit better understanding and better respect and appreciation for the community.
Outstanding. That sounds like a great takeaway. But looking forward, as far as your professional life is concerned with this company or any of your other endeavors, how do you envision the evolution of your role in fostering community betterment, economic growth, diversity,
Sure.
and of course, historical preservation, because that's been the bulk of our conversation?
So the goal of this is I'm not going to sit in this role for 20 years. I've told my board of directors that from day one. I gave myself 3 years. They asked for 5. I'm almost 9 years into it. I'm kind of right now looking for my successor. Someone that we can bring in, we can mold, get them to understand the process, but make certain that they're still appreciative and sensitive to the needs of the community. I'm looking to grow this organization because we do need a master planner on board full time to work with those developers, work with those people who have a bigger vision, rather than me doing that all the time. I need someone from a marketing background that can help tell the story of not just Southeast, but the communities within Southeast. I want to see the faces and the videos of individuals that grew up on Cotty Street or someone that grew up on Pate Street in different pockets of Southeast so that we don't lose that history. But the goal is for me not to become too complacent, me replace myself, still be a part of it, somehow be on the advisory committee or part of the board of directors, but also morphing into another role on the East Side because I love the East Side. Love Fort Worth, but I really love the East Side, but I don't know what that role looks like. So I'll be here for, a year or so until we can figure that out.
Okay. Thing is, I mean, I'm obviously a little bit biased because my family comes from the east side of Fort Worth, and all these places you're talking about. I mean, I went to Dunbar High School, and I definitely know that Eastwood and Dunbar are definitely different places, right?
Yes.
And I mean, those boundaries, those emotional connections, and those stories, those families in those neighborhoods. They have a name, and they've lived in those sections for quite a long time and a rich history, especially in Fort Worth, Texas. And when you cross those invisible lines and boundaries, it's going to take somebody very special to be able to navigate that as well as you have. And we got to give our people their flowers while they're here. Those things that you've done are a testament to your commitment to the role and the people of Fort Worth. And I appreciate it.
Well, I really appreciate you for saying that because it's been a labor of love for me because I too have family that's here in Fort Worth. I've been involved in the history of Fort Worth for the last 24 years. I've just been actively involved since I've been in this role, and I want to see what's best for the people on the east side of Fort Worth. I don't think I know they need what others have within the city on the north side and the west side. So, we're just working hard to make sure we can bring it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess one major thing for me, and that's the growth along these lines needs to be managed, and it's there's so many resources coming to Fort Worth, Texas. It's
Yeah.
booming, and definitely they don't know the difference if they're not missing it. So definitely advocating for them, and even if they're not aware of what they're missing, making sure that it happens anyway.
Yeah.
What do you see with that in Fort Worth? Because as I said, they're saying that we're the second fastest growing city in the Southwest, and that's a big testament, if not a larger geographic region. So, what do you see with the Lockheed Martins and the Texas A&M law schools, and all these different organizations getting big federal bucks in here? What direction do you see Southeast going, and Fort Worth, Greater Fort Worth as a whole?
So I think with the addition of A&M Law School alone and the new medical school with TCU, it's going to make Fort Worth a game changer. It's going to make Fort Worth be one of the premier cities that people would like to come to, not to educate yourself, but also to stay. If you look at the cities like Austin, people go to UT and other schools down there, they stay.
Mhm.
They go to the city to the east of us and they get educated, they stay. So I think with these two entities, among others, with the Lockheed and Bales and things like that, where they can have those feeders into their companies, will allow people a greater pool of smart people to come here, get educated, stay here, but also help people like me and this organization change the face of Southeast, because they're going to want to have a house. They're going to say, I want walkability. So that means I want to walk around to the neighborhood store. I want to walk over here to, this particular restaurant, that type of thing. So it's going to give us an opportunity to grow smarter. It's going to give us the opportunity to bring more quality development within East Fort Worth, particularly Southeast Fort Worth. Southeast Fort Worth is so close to downtown. The goal is for us to have a lot more bikes riding in Southeast Fort Worth. Help work with Trinity Metro to get a lot more of the dash and things like that to and from. And hopefully I would like to see a lot more light rail on the southeast side of Fort Worth.
I'd love to see that, man.
Yeah,
I'd love to see that.
we're dealing with a younger group of people who, if they do have a house, they want a zero lot. Most like to live in apartments, but they also like to walk out their front door, and within like 50 to 100 feet, they want to get on some type of mode of transportation to get to and from. They don't want to get in a car, drive all the way downtown, and then have to search for parking or even pay for parking. They want all these different amenities. So we just got to rethink how we do things. But I think with the A&M Law School, the medical school, Bell Helicopter, with what they're doing with the flying taxi thing. Lockheed just went in that new contract not too long ago where they're increasing that, whatever. I can't think of the name of the plane or whatever, but it's bringing a lot of more people here, and everybody has growth is going east. We have the available land on the east side. We have a beautiful lake on the east side. So why not, work hard to make sure it happens right.
Okay. And the benefit for those people that are in those neighborhoods, as you said, those folks have a say in everything. But for tax base, I guess for those purposes, when a big bond package like the $1.8 billion bond package being allotted to schools and renovations in the city of Fort Worth, when you get a bond package like that, can you walk me through briefly kind of how you're going to pair these entities up, have that first conversation with the community at large, et cetera?
Well, we talk about, so when this last bond package came out with the school district, we went to the neighborhood to explain, yes, this bond is going to happen. Yes or no, your taxes may go up. And if they do, if the projection may be $30, $40, it may be $300. We don't know at that time. But I talk about if the bond does happen, or when that bond did happen, think about what we can bring to this side of East Fort Worth. You guys say that you wanted to, and I'm talking about the school bond program. The guys, you say you wanted a better looking Dunbar. They've done a facelift. Look what they've done with Young Men's Leadership Academy. They've expanded the school itself. Look what they did with ODY. It put a whole new facelift on it on the outside. I said, we're bringing that beautiful, it gives you the opportunity to have a beautiful school, but it also changes the look and feel of the community in a better, fresher way. And then a lot of people were sold on that. They just thought that, oh, the money's going to go, they pay these taxes, they get nothing out of it. It goes to the north side, it goes to the west side. But I also explained to them too, you have several people that sit on the school board that's fighting hard for you and their tax dollars to make sure that their schools are put into that bond package for beautification and or replacement. And so some of these meetings, we brought in past trustees like the late Daphne Brookins, who sat with me, one-on-one with the community as we adopted schools like Morningside Middle School, Dunbar, O.D. Wyatt, YMLA, YWLA, and Poly. We went in to say, this is the reason that this is going to be good for us. And I'm going to make certain that we sit at the table to make sure you get what you need. And as a result, I still sit on the COC, the bond the oversight committee for Fort Worth ISD. And I make sure that we hold true with what we say we were going to do, we're doing right now.
Awesome. Keeping your word with the community, that builds credibility and good relationships, just good business practice. And on that same note, as you know, obviously I'm in bonding and insurance. And so when you're doing these projects, when you're looking for design firms, you're trying to keep those interests at heart. You're looking for local contractors from those neighborhoods, not just Fort Worth at large, but specifically those areas where, there's going to be a hub zone in this area. There's going to be, it's a DBE that's certified over here in Fort Worth, but they're located physically in my district. So you make those additions, and you add those lists, and you contact these contractors. Are you seeing any of them that have the bonding capacity to keep up with what's coming on? Because it's growing so quickly. I can only imagine it's probably good. It's probably getting more difficult to find somebody with an aggregate bonding capacity that can handle all this public work.
Yeah. So to answer your question about minority woman-owned businesses, a lot of them don't have that bonding capacity. A lot of them would basically become sub and super subs to the larger firms because that's what they're used to. And, it's hard to compete. I do try to make certain that if it's a major project of sorts that comes out, everyone's informed. I keep my list of all MWBE firms in Tarrant County. Not to say that others don't tell their story or send out that information, but sometimes it's hard to find. And so I make sure I hit them directly through the different entities like the Hispanic Contractors Association, the Regional Black Contractors Association, Black Contractors Association, NAMAC, and all of this. I make sure that they're aware of what's going on so that they can tell their membership and other people that they know. It's unfortunate that we, as a people, minorities, African Americans, don't have that knowledge of that there is an opportunity out there to learn how to bond projects and grow your projects and work with entities like yourself that can help identify that. But I think it's all about education. It's a mindset. We got to change the mindset. When I worked in architecture and engineering for years, I was the one who helped develop the team as a whole. I put together the engineers, the construction people. I put together all of the geotechs and stuff. And one of the things we did was we never advocated, and I'm gonna be honest with you, we never advocated for a minority firm to go after certain projects and learn the process of getting your insurance and bonding and things of that nature because they wanted to control the narrative. But now we're in a new time. This is a different era. In order for small businesses to grow, we got to educate them and they got to sit at the table.
And see, that's been a challenge. And I'll say this, that's absolutely the methodology we need to follow, because education, like you said, if you don't know, you don't grow. And what's unfortunate about that is I think that a lot of the trepidation could be alleviated if people sat down and had that, that 30-minute conversation and was real with themselves. Because bonding, it operates around the 3 C's. You have to have your character, you have to have your finances or resources, and that's going to be, that doesn't begin with a C, but 3 C's. It's going to be the just basically your portfolio and your finances, and then your character, all these things that are transparent, and they're not really that difficult so much as they're hard to accrue over time. It's consistency, it's education, it's making informed decisions, and also your capacity. That's the 3rd C.
Yes.
But your capacity is not going to grow if you're not being honest with yourself about those first 2. And you can't be honest with yourself if you're not informed.
Mhm.
So definitely, I think that's an excellent assertion. And as I'm seeing it more, when I look at these jobs, they're going to fall into super sub, and I get that. I get that a lot of these companies think they have to sign these agreements where they're kind of beholden to the GC, and
Yeah.
they don't have the capacity, so they just fall under it, and then they end up paying money to have their insurance program managed also. So there's so many pitfalls can be avoided, I think, by having these conversations. And I think that we're going to get together on that probably in another show and another complete workflow. But we're going to get there, and I really appreciate what you do for my city. If I can ever, excuse me, if I can ever be a resource for you, let me know. But other than that, you've done excellent work in the community, and you're one of the personalities that I definitely see carrying the torch for the next generation to come in and take over, and hopefully keep building things in Southeast Fort Worth.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One of the things that you can do is join our design review committee. I've already shared your information with the current chair.
Okay.
He should be calling a meeting, if not by the end of this year, by the first of next year. I've already given him his charge and the vice chair her charge to say, okay, we got to get the monthly meetings back on because there's a lot of opportunity coming out here. I can't review everything because I mean, so many permits are being pulled in the city, particularly in Southeast, and I don't have time to review all of that. So that's why I'm gonna lean on you and others within that committee, to help. But one of the things I also want to note is when we were talking about bonding and all of that, for the smaller firms, they're having a challenge is about perception. The larger companies that may net 45 days, net 75 days paying the sub, and they got to pay their people. So a lot of people don't want to work with a smaller company, meaning, your laborers, because they know that payment may not be within 30 days. And so that's a capacity issue that we're running up against right now. There are a couple of firms that are doing schools of construction, but I think we need more. I think we need the bigger firms to step up to the plate to say, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. If we're going to help these firms, let's help them. Let's help them build the capacity, but also make certain that they're paid, within the time frame that we would like to get paid, so to speak. Don't hold their money because you haven't gotten paid, because you're a larger firm, you got the money, you're going to pay. Why not just go ahead and pay it and then get yours on the back end? But that's neither here nor there, I guess.
No, it's actually very on point, because I reminded, so capacity and capital go hand in hand. 90 days is a long time to get paid for a smaller contractor.
It is.
So our contractors that are beholden to this community, as we said, I guess they get over there and they it slips their mind, after they move into the community, they're getting all that good money coming in, and they forget, hey, the only reason you're able to do this work is because this contractor paved the way for you to do so. And I mean, I've seen some contracts here lately on the review side, and, looking at these SIP contracts, and that's what, I mean, we're at the Rotary Club as a little background. There was a question asked during the discussion, and it ended up being about contractor administrated insurance programs. And people get billed on those. It's a line item, and so they need to know, hey, this money is not only going to be a bottom line item, it's going to be paid out from you guys managing my insurance program, and that's the thing. When you have capacity like that, nobody deserves to get paid after 90 days, or they deserve to get paid prior to that, excuse me. No one with any, I mean, even if you have the capacity and the ability to keep your doors open, you should not be waiting that long. So I agree 100%.
No, and another thing that, since you were talking, I was thinking about it is, there are great companies out here that do great work. Great laborers, there's great concrete pourers, they're great people who can frame homes and buildings. They're good at that, but they're not good at running a business day to day sometimes. And most of the times, understanding contracts, the contracts if you're going to be a sub, a lot of them don't know how to read a contract. Outside of the bunding piece, they don't understand what's entailed. They are looking at, I'm on this project. They gave me a contract. They said, okay, I'm gonna give you X amount of dollars or whatever, but they don't really go into the detail to say, okay, what does that X amount, what I got to do for those X amount of dollars?
Exactly.
And then after they sign, they realize, I should have asked for more money because I'm actually going to be doing more than I thought. And so it's also about having someone to educate them on that, the business model piece of it, or even, consulting with a third party. Maybe there's a firm like yourself or whatever who can go out and say, for retainer, we can do X, Y, and Z. We can help you read those contracts. We can help you with your bonding and all of that. We can educate you on what you're signing, what you're committing yourself to. I worked in the AEC industry before. After I left the transit company, I worked for big firms. I worked for medium-sized and small firms. And the small firms always ran into an issue because they left money on the table because they were so happy to get the call to be a part of a project, they didn't understand the contract terms.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they found out they were losing money because they were doing a lot more than they thought they were going to do that they talked about verbally. But when it's in writing, you got to go with what's in writing.
Yeah, four corners of the contract. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Once you get to that phase, there's no more negotiating, and that's before the first change order comes out, because there's going to be change orders.
Oh yeah.
And you're gonna have project delays, and now with the supply chain being what it is, you're looking at so many expenses that are unforeseen, but they're not unforeseen.
No.
We've done these projects, we know what to do with these. We're not benchmarking, and that's another part of the educational process. Best practices are what's necessary, so you don't forget. You're busy. We all get it. We all get wound up with it, but I think that streamlining the success of the community is going to come down to education, like you said, for sure.
Yeah.
Stacy, I really appreciate you sitting down with me here today and talking about all this and hashing it out. I look forward to being on your board. Let me know what else I can do for you in the immediate future. Once again, to all people at home watching, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the socials. This is Stacy Marshall from Southeast Fort Worth. I'm Brad Douglas, and this is Build Shield. Thank you.